Hello and a very good morning to you all. This is Addis News Hour. I'm Zoltan Saling and thank you for joining us. Do stay tuned. President Sahle-Work Zewde delivered an opening remark at the UNESCO AUC high-level side event to launch the Continental Report Education in Africa, placing equity at the heart of the education policy organized on the margins of the 36th AU Summit. She said transforming education more of the same will not do. Some difficulties stem from how to run education. It is not only about strengthening political commitment to education and national development policies or even to increase financing, as important as that is. The president spoke as chair of the UNESCO International Commission on the Futures of Education, established in 2019. Its aim is to reimagine how knowledge and learning can shape the future of humanity and the planet. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed received and held discussion at his office the previous day with the Ugandan Vice President Majaupojesia Rose Epel. And during their discussion, the Ethiopian Prime Minister and the Ugandan Vice President have exchanged views on regional and bilateral issues of mutual interest. The 36th African Union Heads of State and Government Summit concluded after placing ways forward to alleviate various socio-economic and political challenges in Africa. Speaking on the occasion, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Musa Faki Mohammed, said cementing Pan-Africanism as a tool is critical to solve challenges in the continent. Haptama Shagri has more on that. Take a look.
Information obtained from Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ethiopia showing that over 35 African heads of state and government, 4 prime ministers, 11 foreign ministers, 13 first ladies, over 10 international organization heads, among others, have attended the 36th AU Head of State Summit in Addis Ababa. Accelerating the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area is the theme of the African Union Summit, so as to boost economy among African countries. Speaking on the occasion, Chairperson of African Union Commission, Musa Faki Mohammed, said efforts are needed to bring vibrant Africa by cementing Pan-Africanism ideology.
Monsieur le Président, Mesdames, Messieurs, la montée du protectionnisme commercial.
Ladies and gentlemen, the rise of commercial protectionism oblige us to speed up with force and our determination the economic integration project, that is the operationalization of the African Continental Free Trade Area, AFCFTA. Infrastructure, energy, digitalization are the pillars for the implementation of the AFCFTA, whose acceleration has been retained as the theme of the year. This operationalization will obviously be given its momentum by you, the leaders whom you are.
According to the chairperson, addressing the peace and security concerns, accelerating the implementation of African Continental Free Trade Area, among others, are vital to alleviate the major bottlenecks in Africa.
And one of the major fragilities of Africa is in the area of politics and political and security areas, each one influencing the other. In fact, at the political and security level, the efforts of national construction, in fact, is facing the resurgence of unconstitutional change of government, which increases the fragility of member states, and also fed in by other phenomena like terrorism and the inherent conflict that exists in the electoral processes and climate change. I would like to seize the opportunity here to pose clearly the question of sanctions imposed on member states following unconstitutional changes of government.
Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, for his part, underlined African countries need to work hand in hand to secure Africa's fair representation at the international arena.
Africa to be represented on the UN Security Council with at least 1 permanent seat and double non-permanent seats. Thank you. Moreover, Africa also needs to have proportionate representation at the G7, the G20, and similar global forums.
The Premier remarked new thinking and dynamics are critical to alleviate facing challenges in the continent.
While the principle of African solutions to African problems is widely raised in the scope of conflict, it is imperative that we begin to extend this principle to a wide range of peace and security issues. Continental food security and food sovereignty is one such issue.
United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, for his part, underscored that Africa needs to redouble efforts to boost multilateral relations to control unfair financial exclusion. The Secretary General added the unfair financial exclusion activities from developed world is rejecting Africa and brings socio-economic dependency.
A dysfunctional and unfair global financial system that denies many African countries the debt relief and the concessional financing they need. Systems and structures from health and education to social protection, job creation and gender equality are starved of investment for lack of support. A cost of living crisis with rising food and energy costs and climate chaos that is causing floods and deadly droughts.
While attending the 36th summit, international organizations have shown their interest to work cooperatively with various African countries to solve daunting challenges in the continent.
Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed said Pan-Africanism should flourish as an idea of cooperative integration, global competitiveness and peaceful coexistence. Addressing the first Pan-Africanism Forum organized by African Leadership Excellence Academy, AFLEX, held on Sunday in the presence of African heads of state and government, policymakers and academicians, the Premier remarked, reinvigorating Pan-Africanism is a must for Africa to achieve in Agenda 2063. Kasan Chani has more details from the Ethiopian News Agency. Take a look.
The Pan-Africanism Forum was held under the theme Reinvigorating Pan-Africanism for a Changing World, and the presence of Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari, Somalia's President Hassan Sheikh Mohammed, Uganda Vice President Jessica Alupo, and other heads of state and government. Addressing the forum, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed said that the vast campus and state-of-the-art facility are envisioned to host Africans from all corners of the continent. The PM further stated that the Ethiopian government intended for AFLEX to serve as a forum for discussion, decision-making and a setting of a continental agenda among African leaders, academics and professionals. The Premier said it also serves as an incubator for future leaders where 3 generations of existing and emerging leaders can learn from one another, and hence establishment of this academy is a testimony of Ethiopia's commitment to sustaining the richness of Pan-Africanism.
As we reflect on our past journey of many achievements and setbacks, and as we navigate changing world, it's imperative we also dream and define the decades that lie ahead of us, and hence reinvigorating Pan-Africanism for a changing world is a critical assignment we must take up in our aspiration to articulate and elevate our African Union.
Reinvigorating and recalibrating Pan-Africanism requires Ethiopians to disrupt the status quo and leap into the future, he said, adding that potentials need to change into products.
Pan-Africanism should flourish as an idea of cooperative integration, global competitiveness, and peaceful coexistence. African youth and women should share their due space in leadership and development. We cannot let constructed divides, geographic boundaries, and political ideologies hijack our Pan-African ideal.
According to Abiy, the leadership crises occurring around the world require Africans to come together and think beyond the box, and define changes in the world demand new types of leaders who set the agenda and are problem solvers and innovative thinkers. It was also learned that the heads of states and governments planted trees on the premises of the African Leadership Excellence Academy.
Ethiopia has been commended for the establishment as well as contribution of the OAU for the independence of Africans. Talking to ETV, Meki El-Mograbi, Sudanese media consultant and press writer, underscored Ethiopia has played a key role for both the establishment and inspiration of the OAU. He also stated that Africa needs media that reflect the African Union stances, distinguishing politics from the genuine side of Africa. Shagai Mato has more.
Approached by TV, Meki El-Mograbi, Sudanese media consultant and press writer, underlined that Ethiopia has been both a source of inspiration and a founding member of the Organization of African Union.
Ethiopia has double roles, two roles in establishing the African Union. The first role is well known, that the Emperor Haile Selassie is one of the founders, the fathers of the African unity, and the African solidarity and the African unity organizations. But Ethiopia is a source of inspiration for African countries, that when the African Union or the Organization of Africa Unity born, they were under colonization. Okay, and there was a source of inspiration. They look there, the sun is shining there. An African countries with the same skin, the same color, the same culture, an African that never been colonized. And that was a source of inspiration.
Evaluating the progress of the objectives of the African Union, El-Mograbi pointed out that the AfCFTA is a new chapter which is established based on successful experience of the African economic blocs.
The African Continental Free Trade Area now is a new chapter in Africa, no doubt, and it is based on a successful experience of the African economic blocs or regional blocs. The ECOWAS in West Africa, the SADC in South Africa, the East Africa Community. People from those regions, they can go from country to country even without visa on arrival. They just go, just like they are moving in the same country. So there is a real successful experience. And the African Union or the African Continental Free Trade Area is basing on that successful experience of the RICS.
The media consultant further indicated that Africa needs media that reflect the African Union stances, distinguishing politics from the genuine side of Africa.
My message to the media: don't support sanctions. My message to the African media practitioners: you can raise issue of human rights. Yes, we should report human rights violation, no doubt. No one stand against human rights for African citizens. No one support criminals. Okay, you should report that, but don't join campaigns that you don't know what is the end of this campaign. The end of this campaign will not change regime, and what we need is a strong African Union stand in this issue, to support African and to put code of ethics for human rights defending issues, and what is the politicized campaign and what is the genuine campaign.
Regarding the bilateral ties between Ethiopia and Sudan, he said the relationships in multifaceted areas are much more strengthened than before.
Africa is the second largest continent with a population of more than 1.4 billion. But what is the Africa that we want?
An Africa that's free of civil war and corruption.
An Africa that is resilient.
An Africa that has citizens who are proud of being an African.
An Africa that is free from hunger.
An Africa that is self-sufficient and prosperous.
That is the Africa we want. And these are the stories ETV will bring to you.
Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Affairs Minister of Ethiopia Demeke Mekonnen urged global actors to finance Africa's climate action. Meanwhile, the UNECA said African heads of state and government should adopt Green Recovery Action Plan with the African Continental Free Trade Area to benefit from carbon marketing. This remark came while the 6th Annual Africa Business Forum kicked off in Addis Ababa. Goshu Melissa has the details. Take a look.
The African Carbon Markets Initiative has bold ambitions. It is believed that it reduces carbon emission and attracts investments in Africa by farmers, consumers and governments in countries that have historically contributed the most to climate change. The annual African Business Forum has kicked off in Addis Ababa under the theme Making Carbon Markets Work for Africa. The 36 AU Summit participants and other stakeholders are attending the forum. Addressing the forum, Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Demeke Mekonnen urged global actors to finance Africa's climate action.
African countries register low levels of carbon emission, yet we bear much of its consequences. We must urge global actors to support Africa's climate action through financing. We must also seek new instruments that will help us meet our greenhouse gas emissions reduction and national renewable energy targets. The carbon market can be one mechanism that can help us inch closer to achieving our climate targets. It can also help us garner energy investments. It is evident that the demand for the voluntary carbon credits is increasing rapidly. If conducted properly and in transparency, Africa's role in the carbon market can yield positive results. It can contribute to the continent's sustainable economic and energy transformation.
Executive Secretary of UNEC Antonio Pedro, for his part, said African heads of states and government should adopt Green Recovery Action Plan with FCFTA to benefit from carbon marketing.
And African countries are not the ones that have the moral imperative to drive a net zero transition, since we are responsible for less than 4% of emissions, while representing 17% of the global population. But we have a moral imperative to deliver sustainable development for our people and for future generations. Therefore, we are convening this event because African heads of state and government, by adopting a green stimulus program and a green recovery action plan, and by embracing the opportunity of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, have said clearly that we want to own the instruments of our green transformation, not simply a green transition. This represents a new model of economic development for Africa, one that is built on sustainable value chains.
According to the World Bank 2021 annual carbon pricing report, global carbon pricing revenue increased by 60% or reached $82 billion USD. Availability and accessibility to climate funding is said to crucial to increase the number of climate projects in Africa.
Availability and accessibility to climate funding is going to be crucial to increase the number of projects across Africa. This fund will also be important to acquire or develop the technology needed to venture into new sectors that also have the potential to generate carbon credit. And it is therefore our hope that the various commitments made at the COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh will be operationalized without undue delay to address the issue of availability of carbon financing.
South Africa is the only African country currently implementing carbon taxes. For other countries, namely Botswana, Morocco, Cote d'Ivoire, and Senegal, are considering adopting carbon pricing revenue. It was learned.
The Development Bank of Ethiopia has announced that training for small and medium enterprises will start the following day. According to the bank, the training is the 4th round, and due to the large number of trainees in this round, it will be divided into 3 phases. It was revealed that 112,000 of the 435,000 registered trainees will participate in the first round of training that will last for 5 days. Johannes van Town has the following account. Take a look.
Development Bank of Ethiopia is a government development organization established to support investment in agriculture, industry and government priority services in Ethiopia as a policy bank. Therefore, the bank provides technical training and financial support to institutions and individuals who invest in priority development sectors. The bank has been encouraging local investors by giving trainings to small and medium enterprises for 3 consecutive rounds and providing them with various supporters, and so far it has done training and lease financing for about 40,000 operators. The bank made a statement claiming that it has completed the preliminary preparation for giving the 4th round of training for about 435,000 trainees.
ይሄ አራተኛው ዙር ላይ በቅዳችን ይዘን የነበረው ወደ 50,000 ሰልጣኞችን በዚህ ዓመት ለማሰልጠን ነበር። ነገር ግን
In the 4th round of training, it was planned to train 50,000 trainees. But due to the high demand for training during registration, we have registered 435,000 trainees. Since this number is high, it has been decided to be given in 3 rounds, and 112,000 trainees will participate in the first round.
ሚሰለጥኑ ይሆናል። ቀሪዎቹ ከ435,000 ቀሪዎቹ ደግሞ በሁለት ዙር የሚቀጥለው ጊዜያት ስልጠና ይካሄዳል ማለት ነው።
The bank has announced that during the 4th round of training, the 20% deposit payment system that students who graduated from various universities and technical and vocational institutes in the country had difficulty with in the last 3 rounds of trainings has been facilitated.
በፊት ከነበረው በተጨማሪ የአክሲዮን አደረጃጀት
In addition to what we had before, we have made a stock arrangement. This share arrangement allows a person who has taken the training to buy a minimum of 5 shares and participate in a project of his interest and ability. Since the price of 1 share is 1,000 birr, at least one person is expected to pay 5,000 birr.
ገዝቶ በተለያዩ በሱ ፍላጎቱ አቅሙ ባለበት ፕሮጀክት መሳተፍ ይችላል።
It is expected that this system developed by the bank will enable Ethiopia to reduce unemployment.
The World Bank said it would provide $50 billion financial supports to help the development efforts of Africa countries in 2023, Vice President of the Bank Osmani Diagana disclosed. The Vice President, who is in Addis Ababa to partake at the 36th African Union Summit, told the Ethiopian news agency that currently Africa needs more support now than ever. He noted that the continent is suffering from the challenges of climate change, drought, food insecurity, COVID-19 and political instability. The World Bank is committed to strengthening its financial support to alleviate the aforementioned problems that the African continent is facing, the Vice President affirmed.
Salam Ethiopia. from. In 1887, the city was founded by Presbyterian.
African leaders have pledged to take immediate action to integrate the recommendations from the newly released Africa's Macroeconomic Performance and Outlook Report into the National Development Plans. The biannual report offers policymakers, global investors, researchers, and other development partners up-to-date evidence-based assessments of the continent's recent macroeconomic performance. It also provides a short to medium-term outlook. Their report calls for timely structural reforms to enhance government-enabled private sector industrialization in key areas. To sustain growth, Africa's economies will require comprehensive information and insights to navigate a labyrinth of intertwined global risks, the report stated. And the bank will release the report in the first and third quarters of each year to complement its flagship annual African Economic Outlook. And the African Development Bank is the first institution to release a macroeconomic outlook for Africa for 2023. You're watching Addis News Hour, and now let's take a recap of the top stories once again. Ethiopia urges global actors to finance Africa's climate action.